Okay, let's start this conversation with some of the projects you built. We've alluded to this at the beginning of the show. You have a lot of projects that you have been sharing on Stacker News. We're going to go through a list of them today. But first, I want to step back and just understand how you are able to ship so many new products at such a high cadence. Because I've noticed with these projects, they're not like you're doing what someone else just did in a slightly different way.
Mhm.
It's like you're coming up with a new primitive or a new idea, and it's something fresh that I hadn't come across before, and I'm just kind of in awe of the cadence and the quality of ideas that you're able to put out. And I'd love to like pull back the curtains and see like what are the inner workings of your brain and how and your time and how you schedule your time and to be able to come up with so many ideas at such a high cadence.
So, yeah, I kind of want to start this with talking about Pleb Lab, but it does go back before that because I started doing this. I started coming up with new Lightning stuff before I started working for Pleb Lab. It was very early on. It was very early on that I started doing this. So, like, let me restart that sentence. Back in 2020, I quit my job and the job I was working at the time, and I started working on Lightning projects by just building stuff for clients. So like I started taking on clients who wanted Bitcoin or the Lightning Network integrated into their website somehow, and I would do that for them. An early example of this was Guy Swan's website. Guy Swan has a podcast where he reads Bitcoin articles, reads articles about Bitcoin, and he wanted a thing on his website where people could like vote on how to on what articles he should read next, vote with their Bitcoin. So like he was one of my first clients, and I kind of I quit my job and I started just taking on Bitcoin clients who would pay me in Bitcoin to make stuff that integrated Bitcoin into their website. And I did that for a while. And after building up a bit of an income from that, I started working on stuff that just I was interested in, like stuff that people had, stuff that I knew how to do and that I thought was really cool, but that I hadn't seen anyone else working on. And it was when I began doing that, and I think this is like the year 2021. um, I found out about Pleb Lab because of Keon Kubita from Stacker News. He had put out a request on his Twitter for anyone interested in coming to work with him in his garage. He was like, I want to start a hackerspace in my garage. Would anyone be interested in just coming to Texas and working with me here? And so I raised my hand and I was like, I would love that, Keon, because I thought Stacker News was a really cool website and using Bitcoin in new ways. So I was like, that would be awesome. I would love to work with you. And that turned into Pleb Lab. Like within a month or so, it had taken on like he and the other gentleman from Pleb Lab had purchased office space in a big downtown building, and it was becoming something much bigger. So I did an interview with them and showed them what I was working on at the time, and they were like, "Yeah, you can come in and that we would love to have you in Pleb Lab." So I moved to Texas and started working on stuff at Pleb Lab, at Pleb Lab, and basically ever since, that's just been kind of what I do. Is every day I go into Pleb Lab and I try to think what would be a cool thing to work on today, and I make it and I ship it. I get to work on whatever I want, and that allows me the freedom to just keep on pumping out Bitcoin projects that do all this stuff that I just think of all the time. It's like every day I probably get like 4 or 5 new ideas of new things you can do with Bitcoin, and I just have to put them on the back burner so I can work on them later. Um, but yeah, it's like there's like a constant flow of new possible inventions, and then it just has the time it takes to actually implement them and make them. It comes
Interesting.
after that.
How important is it that you have at Pleb Lab a high concentration of Bitcoiners also working on related ideas? Like what is the importance of that versus, you being, locked up in a room on your own trying to come up with new ideas?
One of the things that I like about it best is that I can get inspiration from other people. So at previous jobs I've worked at, if I was trying to work on a Bitcoin project, um, well, one of the things that happens when I work is a lot of the times I get stuck on a problem, and I decide to take a break. I step up from my computer and I go walk around and I talk to other people and see what they're doing, and I let my subconscious think about my problem, because I think my subconscious is a bit smarter than my conscious mind and it can solve things faster. Uh, so before Bitcoin, the things I would be talking to people about weren't related to it at all. But now they are. If I get up at Pleb Lab and I go and find out what someone else is working on, it's always some sort of Bitcoin project, and I might be able to contribute to it, or tell them some ideas or thoughts I have, or generate some ideas from them, get feedback off of them. It's just the fact that you're talking with and working with and walking with other Bitcoiners makes it so that the experience is much more fulfilling, and much more like everyone wants to help you make this stuff. Um, like they're there for that. They're all in and supporting you. So that really makes a big difference.
Very cool. Now, I'd love to understand, you're coming up with all these ideas. I think in some people's minds, if they came up with a great idea, they'd be like, this is my idea. I've got to stick with it. I'm seeing this out until the very end and just wanting to get that idea as far as they could possibly take that individual idea. Why have you decided to it seems like you're taking an opposite approach where you go, I'm going to come up with all sorts of ideas, and just like you're taking the act of creating ideas to the extreme rather than a single idea to its
Mhm.
endpoint. What's the reasoning there? Love to understand that.
I suppose it's what I like to see in other people. I really like inventors. I like when I see someone who comes up with lots of really cool ideas. I get inspired by it, I admire it, and I want to do the same. So yeah, I think that's cooler than just coming up with one and seeing and turning it into a really big thing. Um, Taking a whole bunch of small things and putting them out into existence for the first time is cooler to me. So that's what I do.